Staten Islanders were angry about their tiny voice in city government, and they weren't getting their fair share from City Hall. That's when many Staten Islanders suggested maybe we should just leave. The push to secede from New York City had begun. And this was backed by many local lawmakers and politicians, including John J. Markey, suggesting that residents may have a better way of life leaving the Big Apple entirely. The Vote Yes initiative had begun, with many people taking their sides on this hot-button issue. With questions needing to be had and answers being sought for, the Staten Island Advance even held an educational forum on the matter. And then it was time to vote. And 65% of Staten Islanders voted yes to independence. It was time to secede from the city, or so they thought. While many celebrated the voting results, little did they know that soon it would be squashed by then Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, who voted against the measure. And that's why Staten Island is still part of New York City.
Iconic symbol is the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, the gateway to New York Harbor, and it's known for being the borough that gave us successful Little League teams, endless shopping options, and of course the Wu-Tang Clan.
It's quiet, it's safe, great schools, great restaurants. It's a relaxing place to live.
But Staten Islanders have also consistently felt like they are the forgotten borough.
We're like the redheaded stepchildren, right? Like, you know, that's how it is.
And you can't really blame Islanders for feeling neglected. In a city known for its transit system, Staten Island only has one line. For decades, until Fresh Kills landfill was closed, they lived with the bulk of the city's trash. And of the 51-member city council, Staten Island only has 3. And one of them, Joe Borelli, is introducing legislation to form 2 committees to study secession.
Ho!
For quite some time now, the last couple of mayors have just literally turned this city upside down. And we're talking about New York City itself. It's gotten to a point where, you know, people are leaving in droves. Companies are leaving. We've had no respect for the people who live here, the businesses, no help from the NYPD. It's not really their fault. It is the fault of our politicians in office right now, because I know they would want to do their job, because, you know, there are a lot of great people in the NYPD. Yes, sometimes we might get a small bad apple or two out there. That will always happen in any job situation. And you've had situations where they continue to compound new laws, new taxes, one after another, and all it's doing, it's hurting the local citizen that lives here. Meanwhile, crime is out of control, shoplifting, drugs, prostitution, violence. It's all out of control in New York City. I grew up myself in the hard times of the 70s and 80s, and compared to that, that's a picnic in the park back then, because literally now it is just worse than ever. And one particular borough has put themselves on again to look into separating themselves from New York. Staten Island. If you're not familiar with the borough, it's a nice little island. Basically, doesn't get respect from the rest of New York when it comes to changing laws, giving money to fix the infrastructure. Staten Island's left out. It is totally left out on a constant basis. Last census, we have about roughly a little over 475,000 residents in the city of Staten Island, the borough of Staten Island, actually. It's insane to see what has been going on. I mean, we need more room around here, especially in the highways. Place Arthur Kill Road needs a expansion of the roads on there. We do have heavy traffic. There's some good schools out here where kids can go to. They're good people, they're good businesses, good restaurants. A lot of them have shut down. That's during COVID, after COVID, and right now there are ones that are gone. I mean, I had a friend of mine's, Vinny, he lost his pizzeria a while back, even though it's reopened again. Some great food. Used to go in for some great food at Vinny's. And now he's gone. He's retired, he's left the business. And the same thing with the neighbors down the block, which had the deli. They sold the deli to a new owner, even though the new owner is doing fantastic now. But they couldn't handle it. And there was a Peruvian restaurant. Oh God, you know, there was a Peruvian restaurant that was on Staten Island that made some great. Oh my God, some great chicken. Some really good roast chicken that they made on there. Me and my wife used to go in and get that. And the rice, the beans, and everything around it. Oh, it is just so good. And they had to move out of their big restaurant, go into a smaller shop, and then from that smaller shop they shut down. It's a shame. It's a shame this happening. But what's been going on lately is that the city has been wanting, through the MTA, they have an MTA congested pricing. In other words, if you want to get into the city below 60th Street, you had to pay, if you're driving in, you had to pay a charge of about $23 to enter the city. Now, for some people, they'll say, well, that's not bad. That's not really bad at all. But yet, you have to understand one thing, especially those coming from Staten Island. With that congestive pricing, that's going to turn Staten Island into literally the Lincoln Tunnel. Because basically what's going to happen is a lot of the traffic that normally takes the GW over to cross over to get into the city, basically they're just going to use Staten Island as a hub to get across, take their trucks, their buses, whatever vehicles that you can't get through the tunnel with, and cross over into Staten Island, take the Verrazano. Once they're on the Verrazano, they can either take the Brooklyn, the Manhattan, or there's another tunnel that gets them into the city, avoiding the congestive tax or pricing, whatever you want to call it, for that. And that's going to cause a lot of pollution on Staten Island. Now, obviously, the city can say, "Oh, well, let's put a toll at the Manhattan Bridge and all that." That'll screw over Staten Island again. Basically doubling the toll getting into the city. And this is what New York has in their mind, to try to eliminate pollution and traffic. But what they're doing is they're just don't think about these things. They just throw these rules out, these ideas that they don't do any. And if they tell you they have done research, show me that research. Show me those receipts.
Show me the receipts!
Because whoever did that didn't really do it, as we're finding out with a lot of information and research that a lot of people have done, for everything from food to environment, have been compound lies to the general public, no matter where you are in the world. And that leads back to the point that we wanted to talk about, is that Staten Island, and this we talked about, they've talked about this back in the 80s. And if it wasn't for Sheldon Silver, Staten Island would have been on its own for a couple of decades and probably prospering. Because of one politician, Staten Island has been suffering for quite some time now. And is it time for Staten Island to leave? Oh yeah, I think it is time, because New York City hasn't done well to it, including after a major hurricane. We're still cleaning up from damages from that. We don't get any really true help. During COVID, even during COVID, we didn't get the help that we were supposed to get. Like I said, they want to throw this congested pricing to stop pollution and all that, but Staten Island's being left out in the lurch of the whole situation. And I'm going to read a little bit of this into this article from the New York Post, because Staten Island wants to leave again. They're considering it now. Staten Island's congested pricing fight spurs new push to leave NYC. It's time. Staten Island's bitter opposition to the MTA congestion pricing plan has revived the borough's long dormant succession movement. I think it's time to succeed, said Representative Nicole Malliotakis had told the Post. There is no real value in being part of this city or state. We didn't vote for this mayor, we didn't vote for this governor, and we didn't vote for this president, but we're always the ones getting screwed. And that is the truth. That is the truth. Malliotakis and City Council Minority Leader Joe Borelli are planning to join Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella, expected lawsuit against the MTA's, which seeks to block plans to charge drivers up to $23 to enter Manhattan below 60th Street. Earlier this month, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy filed a federal lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Highways Administration, alleging the feds did not conduct a proper review of the toll's impact on New Jersey drivers. Staten Island is teaming up with New Jersey to sue is further proof that we should just let Staten Island succeed, one a progressive Democrat on the city council. Maybe they can officially make Staten Island a township of New Jersey. There are problems making it in New Jersey. Our property rates would triple. That's one major problem in New Jersey on there. The borough's already gridlocked roads will get worse, with Manhattan-bound drivers trying to beat the congestion fees, taking the borough's bridges and highways to get to the free Staten Island ferry or Brooklyn subway stops, officials believe. They are also peeved the current plan doesn't include discounts for Staten Islanders who are under special program for residents paying a discount of $2.75 in each direction while using the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, or one-way $14.75 fee if they commute to Manhattan by first using the crossing into New Jersey. The toll by mail for Verrazano is $10.17 each way and $17 one way to enter by mail to enter Staten Island from the New Jersey Bridge. Yeah, there are some discounts that can be added, but it is a pain in the ass on the directions you have to use. Staten Island Councilwoman Kamala Hanks, a centrist Democrat, said she also opposed congested pricing because of the cost and traffic problems and pollution it will create. Historically, Staten Island gets the short end of the stick, she says. We pay higher property tax rate, but receive inadequate funding for infrastructure and critical resources. I could see why secession continues to be a talking point, I bet unlikely to happen. The idea of Richmond County splitting from the Big Apple has been bandied for about more than 30 years, and in 1993, residents voted 2-1 to succeed in a referendum, only for Albany polls to shoot down the effort. Borelli introduced legislation last year to create a task force to study the feasible Staten Island succeeding. Projects that are important to us, like the long-awaited widening of Arthur Kill Road, are not important to the rest of the city, the Staten Island Republican said. It's time. With about 475,000 residents, Staten Island is the city's least populated borough, but on its own would rank among the most populated cities in the country, bigger than Miami and Pittsburgh. Councilwoman Diana Ayala, a Democratic representing the South Bronx and the upper part of Manhattan, said her district has similar concerns as Staten Island about the proposed tolls, potentially bringing residents more traffic and pollution. I would hate to lose Staten Island, but I don't blame them. especially when your partners in government don't include you in the conversations on something that will affect you, she said. It's pretty irritating. And that is the truth. Let me tell you something. There are things that you don't realize that we have here in Staten Island. We do have a subway in Staten Island where it runs from one end of the island to the other. There is another set of tracks, and we've been trying to get this one approved. Think about this for a second. Having a subway run from Brooklyn into Staten Island and into New Jersey. It is feasible. It can be done. And not crossing underwater. We're talking crossing over bridges. We could build them onto the bridges themselves. We don't need to go underwater. And the thing about it is, most of the track is laid out because it's an old track that we've had on the line for many years, and it hasn't been used in a long time. It's still there. It just needs to be restored. It can be up and running very quickly within a couple of months. Each track has to be checked, but still, how long is it going to take? A couple months, at least 6 months to a year, just to get that one running. So you could have the subway already running immediately, but yet they don't put on that. And then after the last major hurricane we went through, we're still under repair from that. There's been no major repair over on South Beach. There's still people's homes that are still wrecked. And don't get me started what happened during COVID. There were places, let me tell you, there were places on Staten Island that were not allowed to serve food.
What a difference a day makes. Sheriff's deputies now guard the entrance to this bar on Staten Island. A 2-week battle between the owner and the city over COVID regulations has come to this.
Nothing more.
After weeks of defying city and state COVID regulations, there are too many orders and fines now to keep track of. But this is an order to vacate. Keith McElharney owns the bar and seems to be out of options now. He lost his liquor license, fined $1,000 a day. He's literally shut down. Emotional when he talks about his family, who he says he's doing this for.
It's great to be able to go home and spend the time with my kids, and that's important. But it's time for all small businesses and for every citizen. It's time to stand up and open up.
But meanwhile, a block away, like certain areas were closed out. You couldn't open in one particular zone. But if you were a block away from the zone that you were able to, you couldn't open. And there was this one particular restaurant that basically were told to shut down. And he decided, well, I'm going to give my food away free. And that's what he did. And NYPD told to arrest him, and they refused. So what did New York do? They sent in the marshals, the New York marshals. And the marshals arrested that guy. See how much respect Staten Island gets from New York State? They don't give a shit. We were supposed to have a Ferris wheel in Staten Island. That failed. The mall that was built next to it has pretty much failed as well. There's a lot of construction going on. New theaters. We have an Alamo, I think, that just opened up. There's another theater that's going to be opening up with new supermarkets, new sections of the mall that's opening up in the Staten Island Mall. New vendors are coming. I mean, I hope we get a Wegmans out in Staten Island. There's supposed to be one opening up in October near Union Square on about 8th Street near NYU. That's slated to open in October of this year. We have one in Brooklyn, but down by the Naval Yards. That's been open for quite some time now. It's done very well. I mean, we have a Trader Joe's out here. We have Costco. BJ's is expected to, if they have, and that's another one. The environmental issues as far as getting approval to do construction has also screwed over Staten Island. BJ's, we should have had one several years ago. And they're like, well, it's going into the wetlands and over there. It's like, that land hasn't been used in quite some time. At points, it's being used as a junkyard because cars get thrown in there. I mean, we're losing the AMC Theater in that area, in the Marinus Harbor. That theater has been there for years because basically the company has gone bankrupt. I'm surprised another one hasn't come in on there. But it's technically, that theater is out in the middle of nowhere. It's a cross from Home Depot, and if you go further up a little bit, you have a new food market there. There's an Asian center there with Popeyes, an Asian market, and then you have Kohl's and Lowe's up in that direction, and a major hardware store and a couple of restaurants. But like I said, it's out in the way nowhere, but that area could be rebuilt nicely than what it was years ago. If you know what it was years ago, it was a junkyard for basically stolen cars. Now, do I agree that they should be succeed? Yes, but do it right. No, we don't need Jersey on that one because, like I said, it's going to triple on there. I would say a chunk of Brooklyn, and because I know there are sections of Brooklyn on the Staten Island, close to Staten Island, that want to succeed as well. If we cut that off with Staten Island, I think we can build a nice city itself between that corner end of Brooklyn, or maybe the entire borough of Brooklyn into Staten Island. Maybe we could create a nice major city separate from New York itself. Because, yeah, like I said, we've been screwed. They've been screwed for quite some time. We've been screwed all over the place. Taxes are super high here on Staten Island, and we don't get respect. Some people say it's a crazy opinion to have, but what am I? I'm just a madman with the show. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share this video, hit the like, notification bell, and hopefully maybe today's the day I've earned your subscription. Once again, we are on vacation, and we'll be back in September with some great content for you. New episodes of Madman with the Show, Fast 5, and also the return of Madman Cafe exclusively on Rumble. And also, if you want to help support a content creator like me, there are two ways to do it. Below is listing in our description. You can make a fast one-time donation, even for a cup of coffee. It would greatly be appreciated. It's listed below. And also, we do have a merch shop, which this month for back to school, we'll be offering an additional 10% off. Be sure to use our promo code of summer 10 and get an additional 10% off your next purchase. Thank you for clicking on this video. We'll see you on the next one. And don't forget, support your local content creator.